Short and sweet Nikke reviews, episode Diesel Winter Sweets. Go! The members of Infinity Rail has been given a significant upgrade, starting with Diesel taking the stage with her brand new look. Let's look at her kit. Her skill 1 has 4 different effects: intro, highlight, and 2 buffs that trigger depending on whether Diesel is in intro or highlight status. Intro buffs her crit damage by 20.28% continuously when a burst is activated for the first time after Diesel's burst. Highlight buffs her crit damage by 20.28% continuously when a burst is triggered without Diesel's burst having been used previously. The 2 other effects buff her sustained damage by different amounts depending on what state she's in, and are triggered when entering full burst. If she's in intro status, her sustained damage is buffed by 60.90%. If in highlight status, that buff is increased to 235.03%. Both buffs last for 10 seconds. Her skill 2 also has 4 different effects. The first effect gives the team immunity to Diesel's noise pollution stun and can stack up to 3 times. More on noise pollution in Diesel's burst. The second effect buffs Diesel's sustained damage by 68.04% for 15 seconds. These 2 first effects each trigger when Diesel or an ally destroys an enemy part. The third effect triggers when Diesel attacks with full charge while she's not bursting, and buffs her sustained damage by 318.14% for 3 seconds. This buff can stack up to 2 times. Finally, the fourth skill 2 effect triggers when entering full burst and deals 63.33% of Diesel's final attack as sustained damage every 1 second for 9 seconds. Her burst also has 4 separate effects. The first affects all enemies and increases their damage taken by 25.09% for 10 seconds, while dealing 18.43% of Diesel's final attack as sustained damage every second for 9 seconds. The second burst effect affects the stage boss and deals 181.2% of Diesel's final attack as sustained damage every single second for 9 seconds. The third burst effect, noise pollution, triggers if Diesel is in highlight status and affects all allies. It reduces their hit rate by 100% for 1 second unless they are in mute status, which will then have its stack decreased by 1. Basically meaning you will want to trigger mute a couple of times by destroying enemy parts before triggering Diesel's burst to avoid them getting stunned for 1 second whenever she bursts. In conclusion, Diesel's new form has very good damage percentiles and buffs depending on the status she's in. You'll be in highlight status for most of the battle, which will end once you've used Diesel's burst, meaning you will want to wait with Diesel's burst as a secondary burst 3 rotation or as late as possible to fully enjoy her strongest self buffs. Her strongest self buffs are contained in her skill 2, which allows her to deal the biggest percentiles of sustained damage by simply full charging and entering full burst as much as possible, while waiting to pop her own burst for the latest possible burst rotation. This also makes it more likely that you've destroyed enemy parts and thus avoid the team-wide 1 second hit rate decrease for when you pop Diesel's burst. All in all, deceptively simple and straightforward gameplay, very strong self buffs and unique sustained damage DPS output lands her at a 9 out of 10 A tier score. Welcome back, Infinity Rail.